There was a picture of you with her at the beach, and there was another young lady there. You recall that?
I recall the picture, yes.
And that was Father's Day weekend, I guess, of 2014.
Yes, ma'am.
And I think your testimony was that really you only knew her with Charlie. Is that right?
That's right.
Was Charlie at the beach?
No.
I want to start out by saying I mean no shade to Yindra. Obviously, between her and Wendy, I'm going to believe her. There's a few things about this picture, though, that are bothering me. This is the Bank of America debit card from 2014.
He is the type of man that he wants to make sure everybody knows that he has money, in whichever way that is.
And I agree with this wholeheartedly. If Charlie is at the beach with the girls, he wouldn't have let any of them pay. Yet we see a Bank of America debit card here. So why is this a problem? From the state's discovery, these are the financial records of our key players. Wendy Adelson had an American Express, Regions Bank, and Charles Schwab investment accounts. Charlie Adelson had American Express, Regions Bank with multiple accounts, and a Capital One credit card, as well as a Charles Schwab investment account. So neither Wendy nor Charlie have Bank of America accounts. So whose card is this? Sigfredo Garcia's financial records, his DMV records, his Coastal Mason reemployment records, his income tax records, his checkings and savings accounts with Bank of America. Going to Katie's financials, we have various employment records, Chase Bank, and Bank of America. And who is it directly in front of? Katie. Maybe you're asking yourself how this proves that Charlie did not take the picture. If you understand what an egomaniac Charlie is, there would be no way that he would allow Katie to pay for anything if he was there.
And Charlie called and invited us to the pool. We stopped at Katie's house. I grabbed a bathing suit because it was closer to go to her home than mine. We went to the pool. We hung up at the beach. Charlie took the picture. He said, "You guys look so nice just laying there in the sand. Why don't you take a picture?" And we did. And that was pretty much it. And he was on the beach with us. Originally, he was in the pool with us. And then we decided to go to the beach, and he was there, and he was hanging out with us.
Now again, I'm not accusing Yindra of deception, but I would like to highlight one more thing. Note the angle of this photograph. It is completely at ground level, to the point that we're getting more of the towel than we are of the sky. To me, it seems more plausible that this phone is propped up on something, and potentially using the front-facing camera. But it's more than just the angle of the photo. This is the pillow on this side. This is the pillow on this side. Here is the bullfrog sunscreen container that's laying on the ground. And this very much looks like a cell phone.
This is my island in the sun.
So you're probably asking yourself why this even matters.
I was friends with Katie. Yes, of course. We were best of friends. She's my kid's godmother. But I would never want to be put in that same bubble that I'm friends with Wendy.
And to be fair, it does not look like you are friends with Wendy here. Yindra looks like she's just leaned in for the picture. You can tell by the angle of her body that this was a very temporary and fleeting pose. Her weight is shifted over to her right arm, as opposed to Wendy and Katie, who have their weight both evenly distributed?
I was friends with Katie. Yes, of course. We were best of friends. She's my kid's godmother. But I would never want to be put in that same bubble that I'm friends with Wendy.
Now, if you knew nothing about this picture, who would you assume are friends? These two people? Or these two people? Yindra looks like the third wheel, not Wendy. So why does it matter who took the picture and if Charlie was there? So this picture, specifically in the absence of Charlie, is evidence of an independent friendship between Katie and Wendy. This puts Wendy one step closer to the conspiracy. That train that's always gone from Donna to Charlie to Katie to Sigfredo becomes derailed with this picture. The Wendy car has jumped the tracks and inserted herself clearly into the middle of this entire plan.
Yeah, he called and told her it's done. Everything is done. I think way before we dumped that gun or after we done the gun, but show 100%. He called and said, "Hey, it's done already."
Do you hear her on the other end?
Yeah, I can hear her. She goes, "Okay, I know, all right."
Okay, I know, all
Yeah,
right.
like I'm like, yo, how the fuck does she know? Like, how would she know if this shit done?
But it's Katie's voice.
Yeah, it's Katie's voice. 100%. It's Katie's voice. He can't call Wendy. I don't know her voice. I know Katie's voice.
Okay.
So I'm like, all right. I said, I looked at him like, did you really just call this guy and say you're done? Like, where your mind is at?
All right.
Let's look at the timeline.
All right, so Garcia's last location from his cell phone records was 9:58 a.m. when he was consistent with Premier. What's the location for his next active event on his cell phone?
So the next event that we see is at 12:30 p.m. We can see here that it has traveled a reasonable distance from Tallahassee before we see that next event.
And is he the orange dot here with 12:30 p.m. next to it?
He is, yes.
Okay. That looks around about Gainesville-ish area?
North of that, yes.
A little north of Gainesville. All right, so that's the first phone call that Garcia made after leaving Premier?
Yes, that's the first event with location that we have.
Looking at his phone records, what do his phone records indicate about the status of his phone during that time where we don't see any events?
Well, what we see the 9:58 event, an incoming text. We see some events, 12:18, 12:19. There's 2 incoming calls from this 305 number, very short duration, and we don't see locations for those. So those calls did not reach the handset. Powered off, battery went dead, broken, whatever it may be, but those calls did not reach the handset. 12:29 and 12:30, we see these short codes or these short 3-digit numbers here, and those are associated with T-Mobile voicemail events. And then immediately at 12:30, we have the outgoing voice call that provides location. So that would indicate that the handset was now back in service with the network.
And could that be consistent with him turning off his phone after he left Premier and then powering it back on after he figured he was far enough away from Tallahassee?
It could be consistent with that, yes.
And then who was his first call at 12:30 when he was north of Gainesville? Who was the first call that either of these Garcia or Rivera makes after the murder?
Miss Bagbanoa.
Okay, can you show that to us? That was the 12:30 call?
Yes.
We see a very short duration. Is that 20 seconds?
It is, yes.
Okay. All right, switching gears here. I want to see where Wendy Adelson was during that late morning, early afternoon time when Markel was murdered and during the couple hours after. Are you familiar with her statement about her locations on July 18th as far as being at home for her TV repair appointment, then going to ABC Liquors to buy a gift, and then going to lunch at Mosaic?
Yes, I am.
All right, based on her call detail records, were you able to determine what time she would have gone by the Trescott Drive area?
Yes, we do know the location of her residence at the time here on Aqua Ridge Way. We do know that she was going to the ABC. This was located on Thomasville Road. Looking at her records, she has a rather lengthy voice call begins at 12:31 p.m. We see that's on a cell site that would be consistent with the general area of her residence. We see at 12:35 p.m., kind of in the middle of the screen here, her handset's now kind of halfway between there, and then that call ends at 12:47 p.m., and it ends on a cell site here very close to ABC liquor store. So looking at that, again, the receipt time, 12:49, the call ending time, 12:47. We can kind of approximate that she would have been by the Trescott residence, at 10 or so minutes earlier than that.
Okay, are you familiar with Officer Brandon's statements that he saw a person in a red van that matched the description of Wendy Adelson's vehicle at the roadblock at Trescott Drive that day in the 12 to 1 o'clock hour?
Yes.
All right. About what time would she have been in the area of Trescott Drive when she's on her way from home to ABC?
Well, again, I would say sometime between 12:35 and 12:47, or 12:49 for sure at the absolute, because she would have been in the store at that point for the transaction. So sometime in that 12:40 time frame.
We have visual of the hitman at 10:38 on Premier Gym cameras. Then a bus camera spots them at 10:51 before the murder. Then they are seen again at 10:55 leaving Dan's house. Call detail records indicate the phone is powered off during this time. Sigfredo's phone is then powered on, and he calls Katie at 12:30.
Okay, so it makes sense that you might have left your residence at about 12:30.
Sure.
Okay.
So how would Katie know at 12:30 that Dan was already shot if Wendy didn't leave her house until 12:30? I wonder if our little friend here would have had any extra time in her day. Because who else would have been both in Tallahassee and had a personal relationship with Katie? Based off her call detail record, she would have gotten off of the phone with Renee Griggs at 10:42. If she hopped right in her car, she could have made it to Dan's house by 10:54, which would have put her there at almost the exact moment he was shot.
So he was killed between 10:51 and 11:02.
Well, we narrowed it down even more than that. But
Okay, so that helps you narrow it down to what as the time of death?
10:50. Well, at 10:51, he's in the Prius is in the turn lane. At 10:55, they've already left Trescott and they're northbound towards I-10.
Okay,
And so I walked into the actual driveway then, and I saw that the window, the driver's side window, had been shattered, and I stepped on glass at that same time. As I looked inside, I saw a bloody head, and the head was slowly moving back and forth, rolling back and forth, left to right, and I hollered immediately, "Danny, what happened?" And I didn't get any response other than the head rolling, and so I hollered again, Danny, what's happened?" Still nothing. And at that point, I knew that I had to get the emergency medical team there as quickly as I could. I reached into my pocket to pull out my cell phone, which is where I normally keep it, and it wasn't there, and I thought, gee, I've left it back on the couch at the house. So I quickly dashed back to the house, got the phone, and called 911.
How many minutes do you estimate elapsed between the time you saw the Prius backing out, or really I should say the time you heard the loud bang, to the time that you were able to reach 911?
Less than 10 minutes, more than 5 minutes, somewhere in there I would say.
What time does our 911 call come in?
11:02 a.m.
From the time Mr. Geiger heard the shot to the time he called 911 was between 5 to 10 minutes. And with the 911 call being made at 11:02 and the hitman's car and bus cam at 10:55, Mr. Geiger's estimation of time sounds completely accurate. So in that timeline, Wendy has plenty of time to scurry back to her car and get to her house in time for her 11:22 call to Tova. So this little picture proves that Wendy is making independent decisions behind Charlie's back. Because although I think that Charlie knew about her going to the crime scene, I don't think he knew that she got caught until his trial. And to be honest, he may have not even known about the second trip until then. Because as excited as Wendy would have been to share the news that the job was done, I think she would have likely kept it to herself, the fact that she went by for a second look. Because coming face to face with an officer would not have been so sweet.
Officer, is that it appeared that this van, which had a clear view of her ex-husband's house, right?
Yes.
Because your testimony is assuming to this jury that it was Wendy Adelson that was driving that car, right?
I'm sorry, say that last part again.
Your testimony, or what you're suggesting to these jurors, is that that may have been Wendy Adelson in that maroon color in this vehicle, right?
Correct.
Okay. And
So I hope you really savor your time in the sun, because it won't be long until you never see it again.